Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm excited to kick off our New Testament readings this week. If you are brand new, maybe you've just jumped in to the reading plan, maybe you have not been tracking with us for a while, but you're jumping back in. We're excited to have you, and we're excited to jump into Matthew. So this week we are hitting a majority of Matthew, 1 through 20, and then we're going to be finishing up Psalm 119, and then hitting a few other Psalms after that. So for this video, let me just highlight a couple things about the book of Matthew as a whole, and then I'll briefly kind of review something to maybe focus on as you get into the Psalms. So as we get into Matthew this week, two things that just to highlight for you. The first one is the purpose of Matthew. All right, so as you get into it and you're reading, we need to understand the purpose of Matthew is this. Matthew wants to show his audience or his readers or us today that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. All right, that there's a lot of different ways that gets played out, but to boil it down all the way, Matthew just wants you to know that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. One of the ways we know that is that in the first 4 chapters, I want you to notice, I think that's all in one day's reading, maybe on Monday, I just want you to notice how many times you see the word fulfill or fulfilled. Matthew's going to consistently go to Old Testament scriptures and say, man, Jesus is here and this fulfills this Old Testament prophecy. This happened to Jesus' life, and this is to fulfill something that happened in Hosea, for instance. And so what he's trying to do is show his audience that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. And this is beautiful for us because we've just spent 9 months looking at the Old Testament, always looking each book, kind of longing for and wondering, when is the end going to come? When are these promises going to be fulfilled? We see these great, amazing men and women throughout Israel's history, but all of them fail in certain ways. None of them actually live up to the status of a Messiah. The prophets are crying out to Israel that they need a Messiah. And then we turn to Matthew. And it's just this beautiful fulfillment. It's like if you go through the whole Old Testament, it's like we're just craving water. We're like dehydrated. You're just longing for something to satisfy. And you get to the book of Matthew and you read story after story of the person of Jesus. And it is like water on a hot day when you are dehydrated. It just satisfies this longing for a Messiah. That's what Matthew wants to do. So that's his purpose. So as you go through the book, just kind of keep the idea of fulfill in mind. Keep Old Testament stories in mind as you're seeing Jesus do things. Matthew is actively trying to help you see that, that he really is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. So that's the purpose of Matthew. The second thing I want to hit on for Matthew is the structure of Matthew. All right, now there's a few different ways we could do this. I think maybe the most helpful for us is that Matthew is centered around 5 sermons or teachings of Jesus. All right, so you're going to see 5 different teachings. So in chapters 1 through 4, we're going to get a narrative about the coming of Jesus. It's kind of his arrival story. From chapter 5, then, we're going to see the first teaching. From that point on, you're going to see 5 different teachings, followed by a little bit of narrative. All right, now there's a lot we could go into on that. They are connected in the teachings of Jesus and then how that gets played out in his life or in his ministry. But as you start to notice these big chunks of, maybe you have a red letter Bible, there's going to be these big chunks of Jesus's teaching followed by a few different stories for a couple chapters. Then big set of teaching and a few different stories. And so that's intentional by the author Matthew. And one of the things that you're going to see is that after the teachings, you'll see this phrase, something along the lines of, when Jesus finished saying these things. So you're going to get this teaching, and it's going to say, Jesus finished saying these things. And then you're going to get some stories. And that's just going to be kind of the flow of Matthew. We'll hit most of those. We'll wrap Matthew up next week, but just understand that's kind of the structure. We got a little bit of narrative up front. It's kind of an intro, and then 5 different sermons or teachings from Jesus, and then that gets played out in his life and ministry. So hopefully that's mildly helpful. The Bible Project does a really good job of explaining some of that and even more. So if you want to go to their website, Bible Project video on Matthew is helpful. All right, so that's Matthew. Hopefully that's enjoyable for you as we get into the New Testament. We get to see the person and work of Jesus, which is just exciting. So that's Matthew. flip over to the Psalms for this week. We're going to be finally wrapping up Psalm 119. We have a couple more days in that. And then I think we're hitting 120, 121, and 122. So for this week, here's what I want to remind you to do when you read the Psalms. Or maybe you're brand new again to these videos or to the reading plan. Here's what I want to encourage you to do when you come to the Psalm. Just a very simple way of reading these that we've kind of encouraged our people in is try to find how is the psalmist communicating about God. What is the imagery that he's giving to God? What are the titles that he's giving to God? What's the character of God? What aspect of his character is coming through in this psalm? And then I want you to ask, what is the emotion of the psalm? What's the tone of this psalm? And I want you to put those two things together, and then I want you just to meditate for a few minutes on in your life when that tone matches that characteristic of God. Okay, so let me give you one example quick. In Psalm 121, which we'll be getting to this week, Psalm 121 talks about how God is a helper, how he delivers. There's this characteristic of God that he will help and deliver his people, even in hard times. That is a central piece to who God is. He's a helper for us. The tone of the psalm, as you read through it, is very hope-filled. It's not super drastic. It's not even necessarily incredibly joy-filled. There is joy, but it feels just mostly hope-filled. So what we need to do is we need to say, okay, God is a helper, and that should bring hope to my soul. I should have the emotion of hope. Where in my life do I need the hope that God is my helper? Where in my past have I seen God as my helper, and how is that bringing me hope today? Right? We get those two characteristics, that God's a helper and that provides hope for his people. And we just want to ask the question, where is that at today? Where have I seen that before? And where do I need God's help in the future? Where do I need to put my hope in a situation to come? So hopefully that's helpful as you get into the Psalm. So just each day as you read the readings, find the characteristic of God, the emotion or the tone of the Psalm, and then put that together just to meditate on in your own life. So that's Matthew. Those are the Psalms for the week. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions as we get into the New Testament, please let us know.